Story 1. My husband gave me a warning tap and I called it abuse. Am I the a-hole? I am F24 and my husband is M30. We've been together for 3 years and married for 1. This is a throwaway account just in case. About a week ago, my husband and I got into an argument over his phone, which he had misplaced. I was in the shower when he lost it, and when I came out, he was throwing a fucking fit over it. He was like, "Where did you put it? Have you seen it?" Angrily yelling and snapping. I said I hadn't touched it and I needed to get dressed. My husband was standing in the doorway looking behind the door, so I couldn't open it. I said, "Hello, move please." Apparently my tone was rude because my husband turned around and shoved me into the room. I was like, "Okay, you need to calm down. I can help you look, but I gotta get dressed." He tells me to hurry up. I snap back, "I'm not gonna hurry up. It isn't my fucking fault." My husband turned around and hit me on my mouth with the back of his hand. It didn't even really hurt, but I was appalled. He called it a warning tap because of my attitude. I left right then and there. I called my mom and came over. I haven't left. My brother took me over the next day to get a few things. My husband asked me if all this really necessary, and I said, "Yeah, it is when you abuse your wife." He was so stricken that I called it abuse. He screamed at me for it. He said I can ruin his career if I use that word. I know that I can, and I know that he didn't even hurt me, but that's how I feel. He sent me several texts threatening to divorce me if I use that word again, or try to hurt his career by saying it's someone important. Am I the a-hole for saying this, potentially citing this, and potentially ruining his career? Story 2. Am I the a-hole for breaking a man's nose because he apparently didn't know what stop means? I, 21F, went to my local grocery store the other day to get 2 items and then go home. As I'm grabbing said items, they were on different aisles. I see a man, 45, 55, following me quite closely. You may say, "Oh, maybe it's just a weird coincidence. He wanted something on that aisle." No, he didn't pick up or look at anything. Didn't even have a cart. A little more context. I was wearing a dress. Not ridiculously short, but it was short because it's 90 degrees outside. Anyways, I got uncomfortable and just went and checked out. Didn't see the man until I was almost to my car. He walks up and tries to start making awkward small talk. How old I am, the fact that my license plate is a different state than the one I was in, where I was coming from, if I have a boyfriend. I told him I wasn't interested and asked him to please leave me alone. He didn't and got closer to me. I have a very big ick about people boxing me into small spaces, trauma, and so I said quite loudly, "Please back away from me, I don't like this." He laughed and basically said, "Oh, she's upset, what a sweetheart," and is now 3 inches away from me. So I panicked and slammed the palm of my hand into his nose, which broke it. He began screaming at me, but I was having a panic attack and just got into my car and left. I told some friends about it, and some say I'm at AH because I could have just ducked away, and some say that that's a completely normal response for someone who has trauma. So, am I the a-hole? Story 3. Am I the a-hole? My husband flicked his lighter in my face and I slapped him in response. So, my husband is a smoker. He smokes when he's upset or anxious as a way to get himself to calm down. We've been married for 2 months, and we've never had any fights or arguments till yesterday. So we were sitting together on the sofa, and he decided to have a cigarette. I was on my phone sending an important email, and he was complaining about some pimple that appeared on his cheek. He kept telling me to take a look at it, and I told him to wait till I'd finished sending the email, because it was important. Suddenly, and out of nowhere, he flipped open his lighter and put it insanely close to my face and flicked it. I didn't feel burn or heat, but the light scared me. I screamed so loud, then I immediately slapped him across the face and cussed him out. He played confused and hurt and said he was just trying to get my attention. He said that it was my fault for ignoring him and staring at me phone instead. I told him he was nuts, and he said I went out of line for slapping him, then stormed outside to continue smoking. I was so shaken, I started crying. Then I went to sleep in the guest room. We haven't talked since then. Was my reaction over the top? Maybe slapping him was not okay, but it was a natural reaction to what he had done. I don't know if he was just messing with me or trying to get back at me for ignoring him. Am I the a-hole? Story 4. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife delusional for her look-smaxing? I, 34 Mellors, and my wife, 29 Zabaf, have been married for 3 years. After getting married, we moved to another state, and she has since remained unemployed. Now, my wife has more or less given up on finding work. The primary issue is that she can't find something that meets her standards, despite several businesses in our area actively hiring. This wasn't a problem at first, but since inflation has outpaced my raises, money's tight. It doesn't help that my wife orders takeout quite often. A few months back, she approached me saying that she had a plan for making some money on the side. I figured it would be some simple entry-level WFH job, but she told me that she was going to start looksmaxing and, in a few months, start a cosplay Patreon. I did not know anything about looksmaxing at the time, but I did know that most women who have successful cosplay Patreons are thin. My wife, standing 5'2" and weighing 220 pounds, is not. I kind of assumed she would start dieting and exercising. I basically told her that if she wanted to start a journey of self-improvement, I would be happy to encourage her. But I also emphasized that she shouldn't rely on a crapshoot like Patreon for money. She clearly didn't listen, as over the past 3 months, she has been obsessively looksmaxing. And her version of this is spending too much money on makeup and skincare regimens while continuing to eat takeout and staying sedentary. She spends an inordinate amount of time watching makeup tutorials and TikToks about how to make yourself more attractive. After 3 months of this, I had already reached my limit with her, which has led to several arguments. But today, while I was at work, I got a notification from my bank that she had withdrawn $450 out of our joint account. I called her immediately, and she didn't answer. I texted her and she didn't see it. I then told my boss I had to go home due to an emergency and left the office immediately. When I walked in the door, I found her in the living room. I asked what the hell she had spent $450 on, and she gawked at me, not realizing that I'm notified every time she withdraws money. Then she came clean that she had bought a new facial cream. She said something like, "I know you're mad, but trust me, I'm gonna make way more money when I start my Patreon." I was furious. I called her delusional, called her a sedentary fast food addict, and told her to return the lotion because we were not in a position to be spending $450 on cosmetics. She responded that the store did not accept returns, doubtful, and then when I told her that she was going to be selling it to someone else, she grabbed the tiny container and opened it in front of me. Now she's in another room crying about the ensuing argument, repeating that I'm ruining her months of work on this project. I know she'll come out eventually, if for nothing else but to order takeout again or something, but I'm starting to feel a bit bad about calling her delusional. Should I have handled this differently? Story 5. Am I the a-hole for refusing to lend my friend money after she never paid me back? So I, 29F, have this friend, Lisa, 28F, who's always been kind of bad with money. We've been close since college, so when she asked for a couple small loans over the years, $20 here, $50 there, I didn't think much of it. But about 6 months ago, she had this huge issue with her car breaking down, and then she couldn't pay rent. She asked if I could lend her $500 to cover everything, and since she was really desperate and my friend, I helped her out. She promised she'd pay me back as soon as she could. I didn't pressure her or anything, but fast forward to now, and guess what? Still not a dime back. I've reminded her a couple times casually, and each time she's like, "Oh, I'm just so broke this month. Next month for sure," or "I'll get you when I get paid." But it's been 6 months. So at this point, I just let it go and figured I'm never seeing that $500 again. Then, out of nowhere last week, she asks if she can borrow another $300 because her phone broke and she needs a new one. I straight up told her I wasn't comfortable lending her more money, especially since she hadn't paid me back from the last time. She got super defensive and was like, "I thought we were friends. Why are you acting like this? I'm obviously gonna pay you back, I just need more time." I wasn't rude or anything, but I told her no. I've helped her enough and I don't want to be stuck chasing her for more money. That's when she totally lost it. She said I was being selfish and that I was using the money to make her feel bad and act like I'm better than her. She even said I should trust her since she's my friend, and it's not like she's never going to pay me back. She then brought up how she's always been there for me emotionally when I needed someone, like that somehow cancels out the money she owes me. Now, some of our mutual friends are saying I should have just given her the $300 because she's going through a rough patch. They think I'm overreacting about the $500, and that if I really trusted her as a friend, I wouldn't make it a big deal. But I've already helped her, and she's shown zero effort to pay me back. It's not even the money at this point, it's about being taken advantage of. So am I the a-hole for refusing to loan her more money? Or am I being too harsh about it? Story 6. Am I the a-hole for banning my mom from my wedding after her ex got my 2-year-old sister to ruin the wedding dress? My mom kind of has a situationship going on. She has a 2-year-old with her ex and claims they aren't together, and she just lets him live there for my sister, but they sleep in the same bed, despite multiple guest rooms, and she's affectionate with him. Honestly, I think she is just lying because she knows I don't like him. I have a long history with this man, but it suffices to say that he doesn't like me. He is currently pissy because he isn't invited to our wedding, but my sister was asked to be a flower girl. My mom declined and said that was disrespectful to him and my sister would be home with him, which is fine, we didn't push it. The other day we had some family over and I went out to pick up food. I came back and my fiancée was sobbing. She said my sister had gotten paint, shaving cream, and glitter all over the front of her dress. She had tried it on to show my grandma. I was irate and demanded to know how my mom let it happen. It came out that my sister was doing crafts in the other room, and her dad told her she should go and give my fiancée a hug and tell her she looked beautiful. I was furious and my mom was yelling at him, but still, I have never had so little respect for her. She said he would pay for it, but money is nothing to him. The dress cost what he'd spend on a fancy dinner, so paying for it doesn't really mean anything. I told my mom she needed to kick him out, or she was uninvited. My mom said I was being ridiculous and that she would pay for it if he wouldn't. I lost it and told her she needed to choose between her son and her fuck toy. My mom said I was asking her to choose between me and my sister. She eventually chose him and is currently banned from the wedding. Story 7. Am I the a-hole for ordering pizza at my friend's wedding because there was no food? Me and my wife were invited to my friend's wedding. The wedding was going to have about 70 PPL with mostly family. When we got there, we were seated at a table with some other people, nice people, and we mingled well and had a good time chatting. The wedding was also quite nice. Both my friend and his new wife were very happy. After the ceremony, every table got 2 bottles of wine, bread, butter, and there also was an open bar, so we started to have a few drinks. Then the food came out. It looked really good. The food was set up for buffet. I was half buzzed and looking forward to getting some food in my belly. When it was time to eat, every few tables at a time were going to get called, which is fine. The first few tables that were called were understandably the family of both sides. Then the rest were. The problem was that the family members, his in-laws, are larger people. Now, I don't shame people for how much they eat, but I noticed the helpings of food they had while I was patiently waiting for us to be called. I also noticed that they went for seconds before all the tables were called and no one stopped them. I didn't say anything, though I thought that was rude. I just assumed that there was just a lot of food. To my surprise, by the time we were called, there was nothing left. I asked if there was more coming out, and apparently that already occurred. So we grabbed the little we could and went back to sit down and ate the scarps. We were all still pretty hungry and a bit pissed off, so we kind of talked that the first few tables ate all the food. Someone mentioned that they could go for some pizza, and then I had the drunken idea of ordering some LOL. So that is what we did. We all pitched in and ordered 4 large pizzas and some chicken wings from a local pizza joint close to the venue, so it didn't take long to be delivered. I met the guy outside and brought the food to our table, and we started to eat. Some of the other tables noticed and asked where the pizza came from. Apparently, some of the other tables close to ours didn't get any food either, so we shared with them. This caused some commotion because other people were looking for and asking the wedding party if there was pizza available. I guess there were others that didn't get to eat either. We did share with anyone who asked us. My friend came to talk to me about why I ordered the food. His bride was not happy about it. It ruined the aesthetics. So I told him that we didn't get to eat and that the food ran out long before our table was called and we were really hungry. He then asked why we didn't just step out and eat, then come back. Though annoyed about that, I respectively explained to him that we were all drinking on an empty stomach and that it probably wasn't the best idea to have drunk people walking around looking for food. I don't think he liked that, but went back to his bride who was glaring at us. Like, what were we supposed to do, starve? This wasn't the end though, as we were finishing eating. One of the in-laws came to our table and he asked where the pizza came from. This is where I may be the AH. There were 2 slices left. I knew he was eyeing them. I asked the other people at my table if they wanted one. Everyone declined. This guy then said he'd have one. I then took the 2 slices, I put them on my plate and started to eat them, then looked at him and said something like, "No, you and everyone at your tables had way more than your fair share of the buffet and ate all of it. This is the reason we ordered food in the first place, and now you have the nerve to ask us to share." His face went red, and he returned to his table. There was a lot of discussion going on there. They were all looking back at us with daggers. The bride looked even more ticked off at us. She had a bit of an argument with my friend. He eventually came back to tell us we had to leave. I didn't mean to start any problems, so me and my wife called a cab and left. He called me a few days later and we had a long talk. I explained my perspective, and he agreed that his in-laws were really rude for eating all the food and leaving most of the other guests with very little. A lot of people actually complained to him about it. Everyone was drinking, thinking that there would be food, and they were disappointed. He was upset with his in-laws because he told them how many guests there would be and to order the food for that many people. He also saw how much they were taking, but assumed they ordered enough. He was wrong. He brought this up with his wife, and she said that apparently, because the in-laws paid for the alcohol and the food they felt entitled to eat what they wanted, she was really mad at them and reamed them out for tainting her special day. He also said a lot of the other non-family guests started to leave soon after we left because they too were hungry. They still had fun celebrating, but it did kind of put a downer on their special day. Out of 70 PPL, about 30 left. I also found out that guy that came to our table was his FIL. Phil was really embarrassed by what I said to him. He felt pretty bad when he found out close to half the guests didn't get to eat anything and left early. So, am I the a-hole? Story 8. Am I the a-hole for locking my girlfriend out of the basement so I could eat in peace? I am 39 and male. My girlfriend is 41. We have lived together for a bit over a year in my house. During the time that I have lived with my girlfriend, I've become very used to the fact that she really seems to de-stress by complaining. Much of this complaining is about other people in her life, such as her mother and her former co-workers, but much of this complaining is about me and how I'm not meeting her expectations in one way or another. I'm generally fine listening to her rant and will make all the appropriate motions to show that I'm listening, but a few months back, her complaining increased significantly in frequency. Again, I'm happy to listen to her, but one time that I do not want to listen to complaining is when I'm eating. Breakfast time isn't an issue because she's still asleep when I eat it, and lunchtime's fine because I work 6 days a week and am out for lunch. But I would really love nothing more than to just have a quiet dinner. It's especially irritating because she gets upset when I don't answer her fast enough, even when I'm chewing. She'll start saying, "Hello? Hello? Hello? Are you even listening?" As I try to swallow the food quickly and answer her, I expressed this to her a few months back. I put it as nicely as possible, with the excuse that I don't do well with talking during mealtime. If anything, it has had the opposite effect. I'm convinced that she's actually timing her complaints to begin when I start eating dinner now. While I'm making my dinner, she'll be quiet, and when I sit down waiting for it to cool, she'll be quiet. But once the fork reaches my mouth, she'll immediately start complaining. Last Saturday, I told her that I couldn't deal with her complaining during dinner time anymore, and that if she did it again, I would start eating elsewhere. She responded, "Yeah, okay, fine." Then she sat down at the table and stared at me. When I took my first bite, she said, "Oh, by the way, today you kicked one of my shoes when you were putting yours on. It made me feel like you only care about your own things and not mine." I stood up and went down to the basement to eat, locking the door behind me. I've taken to doing this for every day since, and she'll bang on the door at times. At other times, she has demanded I give her a key, as I have the only copy. Today, she was literally crying and begging me to eat dinner at the table, but I said no. Now, she's threatening to take the door off its hinges while I'm at work, so I know I have to lock it from the outside before going tomorrow. Am I in the wrong here? Story 9. Am I the a-hole for dumping my GF after she expected me to pay for everyone on her birthday? 24M and my GF 24F have been dating for 4 years. On my girlfriend's 24th birthday 2 weeks ago, I booked a table at a pretty nice restaurant for me, her, and 4 of her friends. I want to clarify beforehand that I earn quite a bit more than my girlfriend. I cover all the rent and utilities for our apartment, while she covers household expenses like groceries and such. While at the restaurant, I noticed how she and all her friends ordered some of the most expensive items on the menu. At the time, I thought I would only be covering mine and my girlfriend's bill, so I wasn't really concerned. When the bill arrived and the waiter asked if I would like to split the bill, I said yes. I told the waiter that what my girlfriend and I ordered would be on me, and the rest should be decided between her friends. The bill totaled around 1,100 euros. I remember the smiles being wiped off their faces as soon as I said that. I ended up paying for my girlfriend's and my food while her friends paid for theirs. I remember the car ride home being awfully silent. I kept asking my girlfriend if something was wrong, but she kept insisting that she was just tired. And no, she wasn't just tired. My girlfriend ended up giving me the silent treatment for the next week. I would keep asking her if something was wrong, but she would always refuse to say what the issue was. The thought of me not paying, being the culprit, kept creeping into my mind, but I would always reassure myself by telling myself that my girlfriend wouldn't be dumb enough to expect me to pay for everyone's food. I just lost it last Monday and demanded an answer from her. She ended up telling me that I embarrassed her in front of her friends by not paying for everyone. I asked her why it was my responsibility to pay. She told me that since I organized everything and I was the man, I was obliged to pay for everyone. We ended up getting into a heated argument, and I ended up staying at my parents' house for the next couple of days to gather my thoughts. I came home last Friday, and her attitude towards me didn't change one bit. When I confronted her again, she told me to transfer the money her friends paid for the food, and only then would she talk to me. We got into another heated argument, and I broke up with her then and there, telling her to pack her things. While leaving, she called me a broke boy and wished me good luck finding another girlfriend with my brokey mentality. I almost immediately regretted dumping her on the spot for something that, in the grand scheme of things, is really small. She sent me an apology yesterday for calling me those names, but she insisted on me paying back her friends if I wanted to make our relationship work. I have been a mess since. I don't want to throw away 4 years with someone I considered to be the future mother of my kids. I could have given her friends a heads up that I wouldn't be covering for them, and I know that's completely my fault. But her behavior over the past 2 weeks has also been quite concerning to me. But again, I love her too much for this situation to be the end out of our relationship. I just want to swallow my pride and send her friends the money and forget about everything.